What's going on, guys? We're at it with another live, and today we got Roy from Amalgalogos doing another call-in stream, and it looks like we have a caller. So there's that.
Hello.
How are you doing, Hams?
I'm good.
Gotcha. But how are
What do
you
you
doing,
mean?
Roy?
Yeah, I'm good. My mic was muted, my bad.
Okay, gotcha. Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hams, just give us a second. We're just gonna introduce ourselves. Are you part of the
Yes,
Amalgalogos server, or are you caller?
yes, I am part.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool, cool. So you're a Christian, in other words, I'd assume.
N- No, I'm a Muslim.
Oh, you're a Muslim. Gotcha. Cool, cool. Okay. Yeah, no worries. But yeah, today's goal is just to have some call-in, um, like guests, like to discuss the truthfulness of Christianity and other worldviews. And yeah, today we have Roy from Logos. So before we do that really quick, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself and upcoming projects, Roy?
Um, for me, obviously, I'm part of Imago Logos. We got the same stuff coming up. We have the video on miracles and text criticism and Chalcedon.
Gotcha. Cool, cool. And yeah, this is his YouTube channel. He posted our Divine Hiddenness sort of like rejoinder in our last stream, so there's that as well. Motive
Well,
Momentum Rise
hold on.
says Christos Anesti. So, do
What
you
is
know what that
divine
translates
hygiene?
to, Roy?
Yeah, Christ has risen.
Oh, Christ is risen. That's right. Anastasis.
Well,
That's right, because that means resurrection. Yeah, but yeah, we're
well,
gonna go ahead
well,
and get started with our first caller. How are you doing, Hams?
I'm good. My name is Hamza, but I just shortened it to Hams.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, cool, man.
Uh, what is
What do you
what
wanted
is
to discuss
divine
today?
hygiene?
Hello, Chuddies.
What's up, Doctor Bustdown? He's also part of Monologus, by the way, guys. But what do you wanted to
Yeah.
discuss today, Hams?
Share some knowledge. I'm not here to debate, but like share knowledge.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
What
the
is
format for something like that is for something like this is loosely structured. So,
okay?
yeah,
But before
there.
that, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
What is divine heightness exactly?
Yeah, Roy, did you want to explain divine hiddenness real quick to Hamza?
Basically, it's similar to the problem of evil, except it's what's it called? It's about why doesn't God, if God is real and wants a relationship with people, the question is why doesn't He reveal Himself plainly to everyone?
Bro, this argument is weak.
Yeah. Um.
We discussed that.
This is from atheists, right?
Yeah, it's from atheists.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Also, what's? eh, Hold on. There's also something. Absolute divine simplicity. It's basically that God's attributes are equal to His essence.
I think so. But do you want to clarify, Doctor Bustdown or Roy?
Oh, I didn't. My thing cut out again.
Oh, okay, gotcha,
Oh, I'm lagging like crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
gotcha. Yeah, go ahead and repeat the question, Hamza.
Absolute divine simplicity is that God's attributes are equal to His essence, right?
Um, that's one way to view it. It's just that God is not composite and is not composed of any parts.
Oh, okay. Well, just to share some knowledge, I'm an Athari. Atharis are people who follow the first three generations of Muslims. There are three creeds in Aqidah. What is Aqidah? Aqidah are creeds. So we have three creeds. The Maturidi creeds, and the Maturidi creed, not creeds. That's the the Ash'ari creed, and then we have the Athari creed. Now the Atharis or Salafis consider the Ash'aris and the Maturidis deviants from the religion. So imagine like this. You know how the Orthodox and Catholics go against each other when it comes to the filioque and papacy? Uh,
Yeah.
papacy, yeah. We have something similar to that about God being over the throne. So Atharis affirm that God had a place, but when we say place, this place is not created nor is it uncreated. And what do we mean by place? We mean he's above his throne in a
Well, what do you
manner
mean
that
by
befits
if
his.
it's? What do you mean it's not created or uncreated? What does that mean?
Do you know the term nothingness before the
Yeah.
universe?
Yeah, but like, what does it mean for something to be both uncreated and created? Like, what do you mean by that?
For it to be nothing. He's in a place. Place in our perspective is conceptualized. So when we say God is in a place, we mean he is above his throne.
Okay.
It's not like he entered.
Yeah, but like if you're saying something is created and uncreated, what do you mean by that? Like that's see, like do you mean that it's like P and not P? Because that would just be a contradiction.
Well, before the universe, right? There was nothing, right? So you wouldn't affirm that this nothingness is also eternal. This is what we'd like to call this place
Well, it
uncreated.
just has
Not
no. It just has no properties because nothingness has no properties because it doesn't exist.
yes, nothing. What do you mean?
Well, nothingness has no properties because you're saying if you're saying something is nothing, then you're just saying that it has no properties because well, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's what we affirm, that nothingness is a place that is not created, nor is it uncreated.
Well, how is it a place? Because saying something is a place is ascribing a property to it. So how can it be nothing and then a place at the same time?
That's what we apply to God. We don't apply that to human standards.
What do you mean?
Basically, we apply that thing to God. We don't apply it to human standards. According to human standards, a place is something conceptualized, but a place to God isn't.
So then what is it?
I already explained it to you.
Well, yeah, but your explanation was that it's nothing while also being a place. That's contradictory because being nothing means that it can't have any properties or predications, but being a place is a
Yeah,
predication.
God isn't uh, in a property. He doesn't enter creation. That's what we mean by God isn't in place. That's our theology, at least.
Okay.
So yeah. Also, we have heretical groups, exactly like your subordinationism, but except this time it's like much worse. We have Jahimis. They quite literally deny God's attributes. I know, crazy. What else? What else? Khawarija. They're basically a terrorist group. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. What else? What else? And those are the deviant or heretic groups I know of. But yeah,
Okay.
uh, also in Catholicism, is papacy like, how do I say this? Is the Pope infallible, or is he?
In Catholicism, the Pope is infallible ex cathedra. So basically, when he says he's infallible.
Yeah, it depends on the context. Bust down is the Catholic, so you should probably ask him that when he gets back.
Oh, okay. Roy, are you Orthodox or Protestant?
Both of us are Protestant.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm
Both
gonna
of us.
start hiding my denomination
Uh,
from like now on. So
my
I think
bad.
I low key
Okay.
think it's like a really good marketing strategy. So like I'm gonna be doing
Okay.
that from now on.
All right, but yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Protestant, so we're not really here to defend a particular denomination. I mean, we'll ask it according, we'll like answer questions according to that denomination's paradigm, but we're not really here to
Oh,
like do denominational apologetics specifically.
yeah. No, I'm just asking a question. What is exactly is a who denies the faith? Huh?
No,
Me
he's
as a
just
person.
joking.
Oh, okay.
It's trolling.
Hold on. Let me remember. Why do Orthodox reject the filioque?
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
They think it unbalances the Trinity and removes the monarchy of the Father.
Oh, cool.
Alright, I'm back. That
Oh,
was just
bust
weird.
down signal.
Huh. Okay. What else? Did I have any questions? No, I don't think so. Do you want to ask me anything? Or like,
Oh yeah, sure. So I
according to
guess like
Islam?
I would ask like if you're comfortable with like answering, why do you think that Muhammad is a true prophet?
This is a very long answer, but okay. Let's start off. The ahadith. When it comes to the ahadith, there are multiple. They cite out multiple miracles that he did. That's one. Secondly, first meeting. when he first met Gabriel, Gabriel told him, "Hey, read." It was just right off the bat. Muhammad said, "I can't read." Gabriel hugged him tightly and then let him go and then told him, "Read." Muhammad said, "I can't read." Again, Gabriel hugged him tightly and said, "Read." Muhammad said, "I can't read." Gabriel hugged him tightly again and said, "Read in the name of your Lord," and continued the verse that God sent as revelation. And then Muhammad came back to his house, his wife's house, and was scared. So now my question is, why would a liar be afraid of a lie?
Be afraid of what?
Be afraid of a lie? Like he's
Can you explain? What do you mean by that?
why would Muhammad, if you were to be making up the Quran, right?
Sure.
Why would he be afraid uh, when he came back? Like when he said that,
Uh,
when he claimed that he met some light, some being that's made of pure light.
so it's my understanding that the satanic verses have good explanatory power with respect to that question. Like, he first thought he was demon possessed, and then his wife, what is it? His first wife thought, oh no, actually you're a prophet. So, um,
Well, yes, that he thought he was demon possessed. Now, if the Quran were to be from the demon, the devil, why would it forbid, for example, witchcraft, murder, lying, stealing land, all of these things? Why would the
well,
devil?
well, I wasn't like necessarily saying it's from the devil per se. I was just saying that um, that was just a neat way to explain why Muhammad to answer your earlier question, basically,
Oh,
like
okay.
why would he like not like be afraid of a lie or something like that?
Yeah, okay. That was just my answer on why I think Muhammad is the actual prophet. But do you have any more questions?
Yeah, so I would recommend reading Joshua Little's dissertation on the Hadith, with respect to the reliability of like those narrators, because the fact of the matter is that there was widespread pseudepigrapha like being propagated with respect to these traditions around the same time. So I'm trying to pull it up over here, but uh, Roy, Dr. Bustan, did you guys have anything with respect to the reliability of the Hadith?
I mean, I would
No.
just say that if you're using like if you're assuming the reliability of the hadith as an argument for Islam, it seems like that's a circular argument.
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do more research. Oh, I hope you guys can see that.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
that's totally
Fair.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Do you have any more questions? Like,
If you got any more, we'll be free to answer them.
Yeah, we'll probably be here for
um,
like an hour or two. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
hold on. Let me remember one of the questions I have. Wouldn't you say that God becoming a man is a contradiction?
No.
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 Because I've heard of hold on, the hypostatic union.
Uh-huh.
Basically, is that Jesus is 100% God and 100% human.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
so
that
we
just
yeah, so we would say that there's two natures that he has, and this is how he has both human and divine properties.
Yeah, like he doesn't like become human per se. He just takes on human nature. Um,
Oh yeah, that's becoming human, but in the incarnation, he doesn't undergo change, which is what
like
Paul says.
yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks. I'll
Yeah, and
see
then
you
as
later,
far as like
man.
things like omniscience, at least under my view, or like even omnipotence, like we would say, or I would say at least, that those are predicative attributes. They're
Oh, okay.
accidental attributes that are
Uh,
not necessary to the divine
now
nature.
we would disagree with that severely. Me and Bust Down.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
We would
sure.
say that what's it called? That all predications such as omnipotence and omniscience are substantial predicates because in God there is no distinction without relation of opposition. So what we
Oh,
would say
okay,
is
cool.
that well, what we would say is that Christ, whilst being human, is still omnipotent and omniscient in his divinity, and so there's no issue. Even in his humanity, though, he's still omniscient. Christ is not ignorant of anything.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
there are
but
many ways to like resolve the logical problem of the Trinity, but you get the idea.
Yeah, yeah. Also, just to let y'all know, I'm probably gonna have two debates. One being on the reliability of the Bible, and the second one being on the Islamic dilemma with a Christian.
Where,
I invited him.
where will it be?
So I don't know, maybe on the server politics, religion and politics.
I mean,
Oh
we'd be
yeah, I'm
happy
on that.
to. Yeah.
I
I
should
mean, I'd
probably
be.
put the link to the stream over there.
Yeah. I'd be happy to host it if you want to on Amago Logos. Because
Okay,
we've
yeah.
been. Yeah. What's your
I
username on
don't
the
know
Discord?
his username. He's in the server Soraya. His username is Roche.
No, no, no. What's your username?
My username is Harafi. Harafi
Oh,
means
okay.
Khattab or orator. I like the name because it sounds angelic.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll be fine with hosting it if you invite that person here. I'll just. Yeah.
Well, look, here now, I don't think so because uh, I was just planning to debate him on the politics and religion server. Uh, so I don't think you'll be able to host it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Other than that, thank y'all for the questions and answers. I'll see you later.
All right. See you
See
next
ya.
Have
time.
a good one, Hamza.
Y'all too.
All right. Um.
That was a good one. Think we're gonna get anyone else? I think the link in a couple of places.
Yeah. I sent the call-in stream to the politics and religion Discord server. But yeah, guys, don't forget to join the Patreon. I have one free member, but as soon as I get like paid members, I'll start putting out paid content. And then these are the related perks with respect to each Patreon level. So please definitely consider that. It really helps with like keeping the longevity of even free content, to be honest. So there's that. And then also subscribe to Imago Logos and check them out, and me as well, of course. But yeah, in the meantime, I guess we'll go over one of my videos, the scholarly consensus video. So there's that. Let me go ahead and change to the screen. Remove that. Stop screen. Presenter invite. Did you guys have anything to add with respect to that conversation?
Not really. That'd be interesting to see how
Uh,
that debate goes down.
Yeah. He did mention the Islamic dilemma, which has been like popping up recently. And for those of you guys who don't know, the Islamic dilemma is just basically the idea that the Quran and many of the Hadith situations affirm the reliability, preservation, and authority of the Bible, and yet that same Bible contradicts it, and so it becomes like self-refuting. Um, and there's been a lot of discussion regarding that recently. So yeah. Let's see here. Share that. Let me know if you guys can hear this. But yeah, let me go ahead and check an email. I just got an email. It's just spam. Okay, yeah, whatever. We'll go over this video until we get another caller. And then have you guys seen it, by the way, Roy and Dr. Bustdown?
I watched it a while back.
I have
Gotcha.
not seen this.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to react accordingly, Dr. Bustdown. And you can add your comments, Roy. So yeah. Why isn't it going full screen? Alright, whatever. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Sroxa says he's
A
poor.
female academic push the consensus
Alright, sounds
and
good.
try to test whether or not we're wrong. How dare her? No, I mean, we should put it out there and really give it some attention and see what academics have to say about it. What kind of critical thoughts do they have? Why don't they agree, or maybe they agree with some of it? Consensus can be damned at the end of the day, right? Because they could be wrong. But I never really read the history of how we came to believe. There are some huge platforms on YouTube, and if you watch them and observe from a distance, you can tell, you go, man, there's no way they've built such an empire in a particular grifted angle of faith or anti-faith perspectives that they can't change their mind even if they wanted to, because they want to make a living and provide for their family. At the end of the day, I do not ever want that to be me. I do not ever want to be guided only by what the people around me that watch me believe, and therefore I must follow and tote that line and must think within the group think. I've tried to avoid that.
In this video. So real quick, I believe that this, like in hindsight, now that I'm rewatching this video, I think he was referring to his platforming of Dr. Robert M. Price. And yeah, I mean, I do take issue with a lot of what Dr. Robert Price has to say, but I guess you could just say like not conservative academics, but like less of the type of academic that would fit like that DEI cultural agenda. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I
I kind of don't really have an opinion on that.
yeah.
Gotcha. Haven't been really paying attention to myth vision stuff.
No, it's been
Oh,
like
not really. I don't.
months since I've seen him.
Yeah, if I'm gonna read or like look into skeptical objections, I try to read books, not like watch YouTube slop.
Gotcha. Fair enough. So yeah. I attempt to tackle an important methodological question pertaining to Christian apologetics. If it is the case that consensus of scholarship is usually indicative of truth, well then, when is it okay to depart from our academic peers? What motivations could there be behind mistaken academics for not being the unbiased arbiters of truth? For those of you who don't know, my turn toward growing in the relevant fields of study pertaining to Christian apologetics started off back in 2015, when the entire Christian apologetics internet sphere constituted of Ravi Zacharias, Act 17 Apologetics, David Wood and Nabil Qureshi, RIP, and some online lectures and debates by David's mentors, Mike Lacona and Gary Habermas. The minimal facts argument dominated Jesus' resurrection debates, and rightfully so, critics responded back with their minimal doubts argument, consensus, or majority leading. Have you heard of that one, by the way, guys? The minimal
No.
doubts argument?
I have not.
Gotcha. As far as I understand it, it was like a academia edu paper that Derek Lambert posted that goes over the consensus leaning positions that would go against traditional Christianity. So things like Jesus was an apocalyptic prophet, and of course, like there's some nuance discussion to be had pertaining to what exactly we mean by that, and just stuff like that. But yeah, scholarly opinions that would incidentally undermine the case for the truth surrounding biblical Christianity. So then, should we wave the white flag and just admit, as the serious I love the
Oh,
B-roll
excuse me.
footage.
that Jesus was a failed apocalyptic prophet, that Paul didn't write half of the letters attributed to him, that there are mistakes in the biblical historical narratives, that there was no Exodus? Or is there something that secular scholarship is hiding that would make you
Top secret.
question their monopoly on the truths surrounding Christianity? To start off, I will make the positive case for epistemic peer disagreement as a form of explanationism. Associate Professor at Wuhan University School of Philosophy, Matthew Lutz, argues the following in his paper, quote, "Applying explanationism to the problem of peer disagreement yields the following principle. In cases of peer disagreement, the thing that subjects ought to believe is the thing that is the best explanation of their total evidence, where part of their evidence is the fact that they are in disagreement with an epistemic peer. Thus, we can appreciate the expertise of others without having to blindly and unilaterally rely on their guesses."
All right, Dr. Falk, why do most Egyptologists not believe in an Exodus?
Why do most people walking around
Dr. Falk is going to be talking in our next Ratchet Christie meeting, by the way, so that's nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
on the street not believe in an Exodus? Because they don't know, they don't care. There's a lot of them. But surveys have shown that more Egyptologists believe in the Exodus than, say, biblical scholars. There is a strange sociological effect called the wisdom of the crowd. Let's say you have a jar of jelly beans, and you get a stadium of people, one by one, to guess the number of beans in the jar. Some people will guess high, some low, some might be close, others might be far off the mark. But if you take an average of all the guesses, the result is often more accurate than the closest guess. This effect, where a random crowd is closer than any one individual, is called the wisdom of the crowd. And this has been a well-known and repeatedly tested effect. However, if you take that same stadium and break down the people into groups of 5 and have each group guess the number of beans, something interesting happens. The average of all the group guesses together veers way off. Now, explanations vary as to why this is the case, but most seem to settle upon the idea that each group of 5 forms its own consensus. And consensus are only reached by fitting in. So there seems to be a social dynamic within group settings that places pressure upon the members to conform to a respected or feared member. And that's what skews the results. Let me give you an example. The Vertibook is the gold standard authority.
Do you know what he was referring to at that point?
It's basically talking about peer pressure, from what I can tell, right?
Or like over there in the question marks, like he said something like the Vertibook, and I wasn't sure what that was referring to exactly.
I mean, you could just ask him on his Friday stream, the next one he does, but
Oh, he does his streams on Friday?
I believe so.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember seeing him streaming yesterday while we were doing Minecraft stuff.
guess-
Off-brand SIG user.
Yeah, so what you could do, I guess that's probably something to do with Egyptology, and it's just like a foreign
Some sort of
language.
lexicon.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it probably is.
Dictionary for the Egyptian language that was written by Kurt Zatha in the 1920s. More than half the work is not cited at all. And where it is cited by the so-called Belegstellen, it is poorly cited. Most of the definitions in the Vertibook are either incomplete, inaccurate, obsolete, or outrageously deficient. It has also been superseded by dictionaries that are vastly superior to the Vertibook. However, it has been such a part of the consensus tradition that one cannot be taken seriously as an Egyptian lexicographer without citing the Vertibook, even when it makes no sense to do so. You know, I once mentioned to an Old Testament prof that, quote, there had to be a late Bronze settlement at Jericho because Garstank found a provable late Bronze cemetery at Jericho, and people don't just bury their dead in the middle of nowhere. Cemeteries are always located near settlements, end quote. And the response I got was, quote, don't be silly. The consensus agrees that there was no late Bronze settlement at Jericho. It's laughable to even suggest the consensus is wrong, end quote. Guess what? The consensus was wrong. There was a late Bronze settlement at Jericho. In fact, a whole late Bronze city at Jericho. And that is now an established fact. But so many people bow to the consensus instead of following the evidence. Of course, now, many of those same guys are now saying, quote, oh, I never doubted there was a late Bronze settlement at Jericho, end quote. This is just gaslighting to paint themselves as ex eventu visionaries instead of the sheep they really are. Okay? We should be asking the following questions. Is the consensus really a consensus? That is, does practically everyone in a field agree on a position? Or is there a controversy that breaks down into majority and minority camps? We need to be cognizant of the fact that sometimes a position is presented as a consensus when it really is not. Was the consensus imposed by force of personality from a particularly esteemed professor or through academic fraud?
Yeah, like, and he brings up a really good point about, like, people exaggerating what they mean by consensus. Like, there are, like, significant minority positions that, like he was talking about in Egyptology, that say that an Exodus did happen. Like, I wouldn't say it's like a unilateral consensus among
Usually
Egyptologists.
you can't even figure out what is or isn't consensus because
Yeah, because there aren't any like polls that are being taken. And I bring this up later in the video. So yeah, no wonder. What's his name? Richard Miller says that SBL is a clown show. Did he want to say something, Dr. Bustdown?
No, I don't really have any comments. I can see where there are deficits in the scholarship whenever you don't have like any way to determine consensus or anything. I mean, like people will just like cite 2 or 3 guys and say, "Oh, it's consensus," and there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate to broach those issues, but there has been a sordid history of it happening in academia. Just a casual read through Retraction Watch should be enough to dash any Pollyanna notions concerning the honesty of academics.
While it may be the case that epistemic peers play some part in the hierarchy of our considerations of what the total evidence indicates, we are not epistemically obligated to always blindly accept what so-called experts say. While it may be tempting to take shortcuts and assume that the truth is more likely to be found through doctoral graduates with tenure, mind you, in relevant fields, the fact of the matter is that such reliance pales in comparison to developing your own expertise. For it is your mind and your perceptions that are going to affect how you interpret self-proclaimed experts anyway. So it is in our best interest to prioritize training our minds to be rational, rather than merely listening to experts. To be clear, explanationism is not like Jennifer Lackey's justificationist epistemology. Explanationism focuses on the mere probabilistic relations without focusing on internal justification or otherwise psychological consonance. Nor is explanationism presumptuous in assuming that one or more of the peers have access to anything like total evidence, a lofty requisite to... What's going on, James?
Hey there, guys.
Hey, are you part of the Imago Logo server, or, what's up?
So I saw the link you posted over at MythVision. I'm the one of the moderators there.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool. Yeah, like me and Derek go way long back. I don't know if you know, but I actually did a debate on his channel a while ago. Like it was like 2021, I believe, back when COVID was still a thing.
Yeah.
It was a high Christology debate, but I was still a liberal Christian around then.
What are you now?
I'd consider myself a conservative Christian. So like I believe in some form of inerrancy or inspiration or infallibility. So.
Is that the dividing line between liberal and conservative Christians?
I would say it approaches the heart of the issue, but like it's my understanding that progressive Christianity refers more to like the I guess you could say the social political issues. So like LGBTQ affirming clergy and focus on like the social gospel and things like that. And a lot of politics, but like the term liberal Christian just has to do with the idea of being skeptical to a lot of like the traditional doctrines. That's how I understand it.
All right, that's fair. I mean, it means whatever it means to you, just so I know what you mean when you say things.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fine. So you were just talking about the importance of not deferring to academia as some kind of absolute standard and the importance of developing our own knowledge, our own aptitudes to be able to sort through the information and the issues. And while in principle I agree with that sentiment, the problem is that if we're talking about issues that matter because they affect the world that we live in, right? The attitudes, dispositions, views, values, relationships that shape our society and our families and our world. There's so many issues on the table that it's overwhelming, right? Because so many different issues are related to it. For example, like the issue of whether or not Moses existed doesn't directly affect how anybody in our world today lives, but it can come up in a discussion where people are talking about how much confidence we should have in a body of texts. And then that issue is directly connected to somebody's worldview, which is connected to their views and values. So it's connected in that sort of way. But the problem I have is that, I'm already in my 50s, and nobody can live to have enough expertise to
Yeah.
to really know the difference on these discussions. So quite often I find myself deferring to the specialists that I'm aware of, whether it's Dan McClellan or Kip Davis or Josh Bowen or whoever. But I always throw out that disclaimer. I'm like, look, just because I cite these academics on an issue doesn't mean I think they're infallible, that they have the last word. It's not a gotcha, right? It's just that I'm deferring to the experts that I know of, right? And it's their wheelhouse. It's not my wheelhouse. I don't have time to go back to school to get a master's or a doctorate in their fields. So I just defer to their expertise. Now, if they happen to be wrong, well, then if there's a God, he's just going to have to forgive me, right? Because my due diligence, I think, is met when I when I consult the experts or the consensus in academia that I'm aware of. And if it's not the true consensus, I've been misinformed. I've just got no way to know that. And if the consensus happens to be wrong, I've got no way to know that either. And if the end result is that I happen to be wrong about Bibles or wrong about God, well, then it seems like that's God's fault, right? It's not my fault, because it's his job as the creator of the universe. If he wants me to end up at a certain conclusion about what's real or not real about the God questions, then it's his job to make sure that Satan can't plant false evidence, that secular historians and academics can't
I think they're
conspire to hide
bringing
the
in a lot
truth.
of presuppositions here. I can't lie.
Well, I'm just explaining my worldview, how I sort out the academia. I'm not saying that this is the right way to do it. I'm just explaining that even though I appreciate the value of getting our own education and sorting throughout the issues ourselves, nobody's got enough time to do that on all the issues that matter.
Yeah, and I guess like part of like my like opening of like this video of like just having explanationism being the dominant epistemology by which we evaluate whether or not an expert opinion is true is just the fact that at the end of the day, like I would consider myself an epistemological postmodernist insofar that all truth that we ever come to, I guess like come to ascertain is like relative to our perspective or relative to our perceptions, which is gonna be ultimately guided by the way we think and the way that we evaluate these issues on our own. So like even if we were to defer to the experts, it would be guided by things like presumptions or like methodologies by which we're trying to evaluate said evidence. Now you also brought up like divine hiddenness, and last stream we did go over divine hiddenness.
Yeah, that's kind of the topic that Jay brought. There's like a summary of that conversation on our channel on Amago Logos.
Yeah. So there's that as well. So basically the idea is that you can basically approach it in like two different ways. Like one of them is just to deny the premise that there's absolutely poor evidence for God. Like I could say that there's sufficient evidence for God, but it's not necessary in this. It's not necessary for him to give even more evidence so that he's not enforcing belief upon his creation. Because ultimately he wants us to come to a free will decision based off of like our effort to ascertain to these truths. So a lot of soul building with respect to that theodicy as well. But did you guys have anything to say, Roy or Dr. Bustdown, as far as what James Apperson said already?
It sounds, I don't want to be mean, but it does sound a bit lazy to say that you don't have the capability to like know whether or not the consensus is true. I think that's an insult to your own faculties of reasoning.
Well, what I mean, I was just trying to be like fair and neutral on the point, because a lot of times I'll say that, hey, I heard from Dan McClellan that the consensus on this issue is X or Y. And somebody else will say, but how do you know that's really the consensus? And my response is, well, technically you're right. I don't really know that that's the consensus. I only know that Dan claimed it's the consensus, and I don't know what to do to resolve that issue. Right?
Well, I mean, you could always just read the literature. I obviously you don't have enough time to like read as much as Dan does, assuming like you have a job and everything, right? I don't know
Sure.
what your situation is, right? But let's just say that you have like a full time job. I mean, even under those circumstances, it's still very, very possible to like read. Like for example, I'll usually read in my spare time for like an hour or two, and that's usually sufficient for me to be well versed on a variety of topics. Of course, it depends on how early you start and how long you study for.
Right, I understand that. And I think for me, it's quite frustrating that here we have a globe of interconnected educational organizations and individuals as well that are quite qualified. And yet, despite mass communication, despite all these technologies, there is no easy way to quickly find out what the consensus is on most issues, right? We have to go to an expert who says, "Oh, well, I talk to an awful lot of experts in my field when we get together, and I'm quite convinced that the consensus on this issue is X or Y." And I'm like, "Well, I wasn't there." And even if that's true, that all the people that they know and talk to agree with them on a point, well, that doesn't tell me anything about the whole world of academics, right? And I just feel like what I really want to see happen is I want to see a like a server that exists, like their own version of the internet, where they all weigh in on the issues that matter, and so they all put their name and their credentials to it. They all weigh in, and they do multiple choice, and there's a space where they can put like an SX, of clarifiers or caveats or whatever. And then we have some kind of AI just like process all that information to give us the results, the statistics. And that doesn't exist, but it should exist. And I don't.
Um,
Go ahead.
well, sorry for interrupting, but I'm just saying it sounds like you're talking about a survey of just scholars, right?
Well, that's how consensus means. Most scholars think this, or most scholars think that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So you just want a survey of scholars, right? From what I can
Yeah,
tell.
yeah.
Um, there are some surveys. I know, like Michael Lacona's student has a survey on it. There was one survey on like
The
some of
British
the
New Testament Society.
yeah.
Yeah, on
There's
Pauline
not that many Old
authorship.
Testament surveys. Yeah, there's not that many Old Testament surveys that I know of off the top of my head. But a lot of Old Testament, like if you look at a lot of books on the Old Testament, they will typically do like a survey of prior scholarship. So you might want to like check that out.
Yeah, and then I would add to the problem of like deferring to the consensus is just the idea of like quality control. Like, what exactly do we mean by expert opinion? Like, does a philologist count to weigh in on certain issues, like
You
pertaining to
cut out
like
on your end too,
Jesus'
or is that just
existence?
us?
What's that?
You cut out on my end. I don't know if James heard you either.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I was just saying, like, what kind of like degrees count? Is just a degree sufficient to be a part of the consensus? Because as we all know, like, there are PhDs going around saying that Jesus never existed, but they don't have like tenure at like an accredited university. Um, but
Right.
so like, there's an issue of like quality control even after that, I would argue, because it's like, okay, yeah, sure, like maybe like broadly speaking, people who adhere to like the Schweitzerian like critical scholarship tradition like would say that Jesus never claimed to be God. But what about the people who actually like have an expertise in Christology and actually like published in that area, as opposed to like just regurgitating what Bart Ehrman said? Um,
That makes sense. In fact, I was going to make that same point that there's this what I would call student bias, right? So if you have 30 different students that all learned under the same professor and they all got a passing grade, and then they leave the school and you ask them all the same question and it was on their final exam, well, they're all going to give you the same answer, right? Because they all learned under the same teacher and they accepted what they were being told is true.
yeah, for sure. And one of the things
That's just
yeah, go ahead,
sorry.
Roy.
You want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. Well, what I was saying is that that's just one of the issues with the university system that it kind of like the school system as a whole in the U.S. It's very flawed. It kind of encourages this kind of complacency.
Yeah, and one of the things I go over in the video regarding a consensus scholarship is just the idea how like the public education system is, quite frankly, it's a form of propaganda because its roots come from the as like what's his name, the guy from the Protestant Libertarian podcast said, the Otto von Bismarck's idea of like a unified German state and a unified education to legitimize uh, the power and the authority of the German state by instituting a public education system, and that's where a lot of like our schooling, uh, sort of like system comes from, at least like reception, like speaking, if that makes sense. But yeah, there's a lot of issues that I go over regarding the secular scholarship video. If you have time, I'd definitely go over it if I were you. Because it even goes over things like academic fraud, and like the so-called neutrality of like say for example like SBL, the Society of Biblical Literature, the mega international conference for like biblical scholars, and like the so-called neutrality is in a way like imposing some sort of methodological naturalism on like a lot of the publications that are issued over there, which is why you see a lot of the conservative scholars like going to like ETS or EPS. So, but anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Is there anything you guys wanted to say?
So I guess some advice would be if you wanted to like figure out the consensus of scholarship. I've kind of done this before. So you know like the whole controversy with Deuteronomy 22, 28 to 29, right? And whether it's a passage saying marry your rapist, right? So
Yeah.
you can one thing I did is that I wanted to I wanted to know if it was like actually the consensus of scholars. So what I did was I just started looking through the like scholarly commentaries on Deuteronomy and seeing what position they took, or finding any articles and seeing what position they took. And that way, I was able to check from people who actually publish on the issue, not just doing like a survey on people who like don't even study the issue, but rather I was able to survey what the contemporary scholarship says. So like if you want to like get like, and I did this for the authorship of the Gospels too. Um, and what's interesting is that I'd say that probably the best way to like do a good survey would just be to go through whatever's written on this in depth and then see what positions people are taking in the actual written work. Because if you just ask people around, then you're gonna get the issue of like, this guy doesn't actually study the issue. He just like heard it from his professor, like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So I have a lot of different thoughts on this issue, but I don't want to rabbit hole us to death, right? I don't want to go down every possible avenue of things that pop into my head about these issues. Instead, I'll just say that I understand the logic of what you guys are saying. I appreciate it, and I admit that I have what some people would call an anti-supernatural bias, and it does, and I understand that does factor into what I think and how I think, but I do appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, like today, we usually do call-in streams on Saturdays pertaining to the truthfulness of Christianity. So, is there anything you wanted to say before you head out, or you had any questions regarding like what we think or like how we resolve certain issues, or pertaining to Christianity and its truthfulness or the lack thereof in your case? So.
Well, I think that'd be a pretty broad question if you mean for me to ask it. I mean, if I want to know what you think, I suppose what I should do is just start watching your videos to find out how you think and what you think. But like I just feel. Go ahead.
That's my bad, but I was just saying that like usually we'll give our positions on like the Discord because that's more like rapid fire if you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like the Mago Logos Discord is where like all three of us usually we'll announce our projects there and we'll like answer questions in like I guess more rapid fire manner.
What's it called?
Mago Logos. If Apollos can just like post the link, that'll be cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the link right now.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it.
Just yes, you can, or if you just YouTube, go to search up Amago Logos. You'll see the channel that I have, and the link is right there, and we'll like talk about stuff right there usually.
Well, sure, I appreciate it. And in the meantime, I often check in on the Myth Vision forums. If anybody here ever wants to have a private or a public conversation about Christianity, feel free to hit me up. I'm not always available, but I'm often available for those discussions.
All right.
Gotcha. Cool,
So,
cool.
Yeah.
this is kind of a odd question, but by any chance, would you know any atheists like willing to do a formal debate against the Muslim? Because we're trying to like set up some formal debates like that.
Versus Muslim, huh? It
Yeah.
seems like most of the ones I know go on about Christianity all the time, but they don't know a whole lot about Islam.
Well, that's kind of an issue. I can't lie, because that's like suppose you want people to be atheists. I feel like just focusing on Christianity would be a bad way to go around that. If you get what I'm talking about.
It is,
What's up, Jay?
but most of the atheists I know
You.
are only atheists because they're disillusioned by Christianity, and so they just, if Christianity isn't true, no theism's true, and I'm like, I don't think that's a good way to reason.
Yeah, that's
But
not a good reason. Yeah.
but it's common, I think.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to go like practically, right? It's not that hard to see the rise of Islam and how you see it spreading in certain Western nations. So I think it is just necessary to dialogue with it if you want any progress.
Yeah, not just Europe, but like Dearborn, Michigan. Like recently, like they're having the call to prayer announced like on broadcast like throughout the entire city. In supposedly democratic like a secular nation like the United States, so yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, I'd say, like, personally, like, I would say that atheism is the greater intellectual, like, contender, but in terms of, like, geopolitical, like, actual threat, Islam is the bigger threat than, like, Christianity, even from, like, the atheist perspective, in my opinion. So, yeah.
So here's something interesting. On the server, right? I posted a questions thread where I asked, okay, Muslims, would you rather live in a Christian society or atheist society? And then vice versa, atheists, would you rather live in a Christian society or a Muslim society? And then I asked the Christians, okay, so would you rather live in an atheist society or a Muslim society? The Muslims all said Christian, the atheists all said Christian, and then the Christians all said atheists, which was very interesting because like you saw this weird alliance, like because it was on a debate forum, right? So you saw this alliance of like the atheists and the Christians teaming up to say that no, we don't want to live in an Islamic society.
That is interesting. And for me, it would depend on what flavor, right? So
Let's just say it's that's a good question. Shia Islam. Let's say it's 12er Shia Islam because I think that would probably be the best for you. I'm not too sure. Maybe Hanafi would be the second.
Yeah, I guess, like, the question would be best, like, conceptualizes, like,
Yeah.
would you, broadly speaking, want to live in a government that affirms its identity within the broader category of, like, an Islamic state, pretty much?
Yeah, basically.
interesting.
Like, do you want to leave it up to, like, chance, pretty much, that they're a liberal? Like,
Well, let's
kind of...
just say that it's a Shia state, a 12er Shia state like Persia was, and then it's versus post Vatican II theocracy, something like that. What would you choose? I know it's a very like specific thing, but like, I mean, if you want specific, that's probably like the best comparison, I'd say.
So post Vatican II, yeah, I guess I'd opt for that, but I wouldn't. I think if I had either choice, I'd say I'd want to live in a cave in the wilderness somewhere. Like, you guys can have it either way.
What about like let's say it's a Tridentine Catholic theocracy versus Shia 12er system?
You know what? The reason I'm not 100% on that is because recently I've had some discussions with Muslims, and they absolutely insist that in Sharia law countries, you're not required to live and speak as a Muslim. You just can't criticize Islam. You can be atheist, you can be Christian. They'll leave you alone as long as you leave them alone. If that's true, then I'm fine with Sharia. But if that's not true, or they're lying to me, then I definitely don't want Sharia. So I'm just not clear on it.
Well, it's complicated. Well, with you, they wouldn't allow you, I'm pretty sure, because it's only people of the book, Christians and Jews, who are allowed. People besides that, I don't think they're allowed. Like pagans are not allowed. It's either conversion, leave, or death. I don't think there's any dhimmi status.
Oh.
And they probably consider you pagan.
Yeah, and then there's a special like death penalty for like specifically apostates to like either Christianity or atheism. So
It so what's it called? I guess like I didn't really have atheists back then, right? The closest you had would be like the philosophers in the I guess you could say the materialist philosophers in like the pre-Socratics or the Socratics, right? Or that Aristotle dealt with. So someone like Democritus could be considered, or not. Yeah, I guess Democritus would be probably considered pagan, right, by them. Um, but then if you had like a materialist, right, they would also be considered pagan, and that's probably the closest you can get to atheism in that era.
Right. So one thing I found in all of my relationships, personal, private, and even societal relationships, my most common problem is that I don't know how to shut my damn fool mouth. And so it just seems like if I could just master that one skill set, then my options get broader at that moment, right? Because then if nobody knows what I really think, maybe it's less of an issue. So with that being the case, if I could shut my mouth, then in that case, which society am I safer in? And that ultimately would determine my answer.
Well, so if you, I think you would probably be safer in a post-Vatican II. But what about like, let's say a Council of Trent Vatican, and it's like Tridentine, basically.
I still think I'd be safe there, as long as I shut up and don't like offend anybody or let them know what I really think.
Interesting.
Then I'm probably golden either way.
Let's say it's modern, like, I don't know, like, what would be a good example of a modern country besides like Vatican City that's really a theocracy on the Christian end. So let's just say it's like a hypothetical country, right? Like a hypothetical contemporary, I don't know, like a Catholic theocracy versus like maybe like Saudi or something. I guess that would be the closest that you could get. That would be feasible.
So does either one in this hypothetical scenario have a way to gauge my compliance if I just shut up all the time? If I just said, go ahead.
Like if you keep, it just depends on you, honestly. Like if you never speak about it to anyone, then obviously they can't gauge it.
Right. So I mean, it'd be different for women, I think, because women, if they're not allowed to go out without an escort and they have to wear certain religious clothing everywhere that they go, then they have to have a certain amount of physical compliance. Whereas typically in those societies, men can just wear regular clothing and go out by themselves, and they have more freedom.
I know that exists in, I think it used to exist in Saudi. I'd have to check, but they've been liberalizing a lot, so you would have to keep that in mind, of course.
Right. So that'd be I don't have I know in America, people place a big emphasis on freedom of speech. They want to be able to run their mouth about anything and not have consequences. But lately, the more and more I have free discussions, the more and more I realize that my opinions don't matter to anybody but me, and maybe that's for the best. So
depends on how convincing you are when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends on who you ask. You guys can decide after you get to know me for a while. Maybe you'll have an opinion about it. But but my point is that in any of these hypothetical scenarios, I'd be fine with keeping my mouth shut. Like it's on my to-do list. Master this skill. So I'd be alright either way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Does Jay have any questions? Because he's just been sitting here.
Yeah.
No, not really. To be honest, I'm just kind of sitting here. That's literally what I do half the time. So just ignore me unless something pops up like halfway through. So yeah, I got you.
All right.
W sitting.
All right then. Didn't we want to continue on with the video for like I don't know, like 10 or 20 minutes until we call it a day?
Sure.
Oh, how long have we been? You've been going for like an hour, so yeah, sure. Why not just continue and then we can see what we go on.
All right, bet.
Join.
Yeah. Just been popping up some comments over there. Here we go. Prior to in Thomas Kelly's total evidence epistemology. Finally, explanationism is superior to Alex Warsnip's net resilience view because it doesn't posit truthometers, as he would say, based merely on two distinguished categories. Yeah, this is just a bunch of like philosophical stuff. I should probably skip it. That may determine the facticity of the side of disagreement
I'm fine with
that two
philosophical
peers
stuff
opine
as well.
toward.
Gotcha.
As David Enoch puts it, we treat both agents as to treat unilaterally trust experts in blind faith. But it is the best theory to parsimoniously account for both peer agreements and disagreements. So that's all great, Apollos, but what specific case studies are there of bias in biblical scholarship? Well, I'd first gesture towards the reception history of historical Jesus studies. Let's delve into the history of biblical scholarship to understand why academic consensus is currently and was historically neither functionally or ontologically infallible.
Look, I wrote an entire book on what we can say about the historical Jesus. So, it's, I don't know what it is, 250 pages long. So it's not as if there's nothing you can say. There's a lot you can say without conceding a single miracle. But the way you get there is not by reading the miracle of the 5,000 and saying that they just had a picnic. I mean, as you know, you know this as well as I do. And in the 19th century, there were historians like Heinrich Paulus who did just that. That's what they did. And Albert Schweitzer showed you can't do it that way. And today, nobody does it that way.
Ever since the 18th and 19th centuries, Enlightenment thinkers
You might
aim
want
to
to pause it there,
separate
because I've
the
read something interesting on that.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that it seems to have shifted where most things that I read are just going to concede that, yeah, Jesus did miracles in some sort of way, but we just don't know the specifics. Like there's this one, I think it was like a 98 article by Blackburn, or maybe it was a chapter in like a massive like collection of just essays on the historical Jesus. And it's like, yeah, the miracles of Jesus are probably real, and like he went over how Q has access stations to it. I mean, obviously I don't hold to Q, but I mean it's very interesting. And then what's his name? Keener has like this
yeah, the 2-volume work.
Yeah, and he goes over how it's consensus currently that what's it called? That yeah, Jesus was a miracle worker. So it's interesting like how it's shifted now.
Yeah, and I'd say like even like University of Miami professor Ed Yamauchi says that he qualifies that it was thought broader amongst Jesus' contemporaries that he did do miracles, but I don't know if he like actually affirms that the miracles were real.
It's hard to get them to give you like a very
separation of church and state nowadays, so
yeah, it's very, very hard to give the explicit answer, because a lot of the time these schools they're gonna have to impose some form of methodological naturalism for like basically permanent funding.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's play over here. Jesus of history from the Christ of faith. Scholars have long sought to uncover the historical Jesus, the man behind the scriptures. This journey has been marked by several periodizations of quests, which sought to their own biases and agenda-driven ideologies to color their historical results. To understand the complexities of biblical scholarship, it's essential to examine the major quests undertaken to uncover the historical Jesus. Each of these quests reflects the cultural, theological, and ideological context of their times.
I don't think a lot of the history of scholarship is really been taken seriously in its context in historical Jesus scholarship, and there is a ton of work to be done, as I said. Now, the one example that comes to mind is, again, the Nazi scholarship, that kind of amazingly, this was overlooked for a long time, I think. I think I can explain why, but that's another question. There were exceptions, such as Vermesch did a little bit in the 1980s on Nazi scholarship on Jesus and the Gospels, New Testament, but it really wasn't until like really the late 90s that this really came to the fore about how serious this scholarship was and how influential it was, and all this kind of stuff. So there's an example of that. We should have, shouldn't we have been doing that earlier? Contextualizing scholarship, understanding in its historical context.
I had to add the Battle of the Bulge clip.
Kind of interesting how. Oh, what's it called? I was just gonna say, it's kind of interesting how we've gone from we need to use scholarship to contextualize Jesus to this very meta thing where now we need to contextualize scholarship itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Historical Jesus studies has gone a long way, like enough of a way to where we can look back and say, hey, this is what we did wrong. Hey, this is where we can do better and stuff like that.
Kind of reminds me of how Aristotle, like for example, he wrote his commentaries, and then you'd have commentators write commentaries on Aristotle. But then later followers of those commentators would write their own commentaries on those commentaries.
Yeah, the recursion.
Yeah, the recursion, basically. This happened with, like, Thomas Aquinas, right?
Yeah. The first quest for the historical Jesus emerged during the Enlightenment, a period that emphasized human reason and skepticism towards traditional authority. Scholars like Hermann Samuel Reimarus and David, I don't know if I'm pronouncing them right, sought to distinguish the historical Jesus from theological constructs. Strauss, for instance, viewed the miraculous elements in the Gospels as mythological embellishments. However, this quest was not free from bias. In 19th century Nazi Germany, the leader in biblical criticism and theological studies for its time, a rise in anti-Semitism influenced historical critical method and studies. Many scholars aim to portray Jesus as distinct from his Jewish roots, aligning with prevailing cultural sentiments. The primary role of Jesus' research is clear: de-Judaizing the Jesus tradition. Yeah, and that's a really important thing to keep in mind, especially with respect to 20th century, early 20th century biblical scholarship and late 19th century. A lot of it was motivated by this idea that we have to get back to the Hellenistic Jesus, that was because there's no way that Jesus could have been anything as a Jew, pretty much, trying to de-emphasizing the Judaizing of the Jesus tradition. So yeah, any thoughts, guys?
I mean, yeah, we kind of do have to understand their biases, but I just looked at the chat. Look at what Cryptic posted.
Yeah, I saw. I'm a biblical scholar. I missed the second scholar. A biblical scholar. I study people who study scripture. Nice. Yeah.
So my thinking is one thing to argue about how Hellenized those Jews were at the time, and what influence that might have had on Jesus or on the writers or whatever. It's a completely other thing to argue that the Hebrew or Israelite culture and theology was removed entirely separate from it. I don't see how anybody could make that argument.
I mean, you saw syncretism, sure, but I'm not sure if you saw. I guess you could say. How do I put this? I don't know if you can just call them completely Hellenized, but you saw some level of syncretism, in terms of the philosophies, at least.
Yeah. And then right after this, I have a Filthy Frank clip, which I don't know if I want to get into that, but I guess I'll just say watch the video for that, guys, if you want to see the Filthy Frank clip. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess we can close out the stream for today. I think we got some good conversations going. So yeah, I mean, James Apperson, did you have anything you wanted to plug in? Do you do any content creation or?
No, I don't have anything to plug at this time, but thank you for the company and the conversation, and I'll be around.
Yeah, for sure. And then we obviously have Imago Logos. Try to, if you're capable of doing so, please consider donating to the Patreon. And yeah, we'll see you all guys in the next one. So take care, everyone.
You too.
Oh wait, no, that's Leave Studio. Gotta do the end stream. You made it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell for more content. Got questions or ideas? Drop them in the comments below. Until then, next time, thanks for watching. This is Patrick Boy Paul signing out. Peace.